we feel about it. Everyone, welcome to episode 3 of today's podcast. You guys already know this is probably going to be now. It's probably going to be called something else eventually. We going around with ideas like gaming inside, but
names. You guys give us some name ideas.
yeah, absolutely. Like, leave it down, in the comment below on YouTube. You can also, comment on the live stream as well, because, this is a live streamed podcast. We just don't, we don't acknowledge our chat. That's all it is. I'm just fucking with y'all. Anyways, we've been tossing around ideas like gaming insight, the Supa-Buz'd, Buzzkilled, whatever works the best, but leave the comments down in the comments below. Let us know. But today is all about mouse and keyboard versus controller. But we're gonna go into some different things right now. Today I also have my co-host Supabounce. I really appreciate you being here, bro. Thank you again.
Yo.
How's everything going with your life, bro? How's working out been? I've been seeing you been getting jacked as fuck, man. You got like some Instagram. Dude, hey, everyone go and follow him at go ahead and plug yourself for Instagram.
How does this work? Instagram/Supabounce?
Yeah, just at Supabounce, I guess, would be it.
At Supabounce, boys, girls.
Yeah.
All my fitness stuff goes in there.
Ooh, fitness. You guys, y'all know what to do. Anyways, I also have an Instagram as well. You can go and follow at BusterWow. I don't post like fitness and shit. I just post like what a skinny boy looks like when he has a really nice haircut and that's like super obsessed with himself. That's basically what my content is. Anywho, today is all about mouse and keyboard versus controller. The age-old question, which is better, which is worse? We already know what the answer is because we actually have some source material. And like I said, I want to thank, Chinito for going out of his way and setting up everything for us, even some reference material. I'll be posting 2 videos in the description. When you watch both of them, you'll know which one I'm talking about. There's a video of a guy that is like sitting up on top of like a hill, and he's like talking shit about like how he has the high ground and everything, but he keeps missing every shot, and he says like, you just got lucky. But then the mouse and keyboard player finally realizes like, oh, you're a controller player, and then slowly, casually walks up to him where he was and says like, I'll give you a free shot. And he literally stands like 2 inches from his face, and the guy finally misses the last shot and he kills him. That's basically what it feels like to play on a controller in any competitive game. And like, I don't know how you feel about this. There are some games that have pretty crazy strong controller assist, or aim assist, but it's not like anything as crazy as Rogue Company. Rogue Company obviously is just like something that's out in left field, had stupid crazy aim assist. But I want to get like Supa's perspective. What about your perspective on like the whole like controller assist? Do you have any thoughts on it?
Growing up as a kid, I didn't really ever think much about aim assist. I just played my games.
Yeah.
But once I started getting more into competitive games, I didn't really think about the whole aim assist thing, and I just played the games and had fun. But then switching over to PC, the big thing back then was like PC was kind of like PC and controller were kind of segregated. You had PC gamers, you had console gamers. Consoles, they had the aim assist, they did whatever they want. Then you had your PC gamers, they did whatever they want. But with these past couple of years coming out, a lot of online games are bringing in that whole crossplay.
Yes.
And then there comes the idea of like, well, if they don't strengthen the aim assist for controller players, then it's going to be hard for them to compete against mouse and keyboard, like your average mouse and keyboard player, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
And that's what kind of like a lot of issues have been, surfacing because of that. Like people complain, oh, it's easy to play on controller. You have shroud aim instantly, and then on mouse it's a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
Like a perfect example actually is my girlfriend. She got Apex Legends on the PC.
Yeah.
And she was playing it on the keyboard and mouse, and she was like, "This shit is hard."
Oh yeah.
And then she downloaded it on the PlayStation and played it. And she was like, "This shit is easy." So it's like, I mean, if you think about it, like it's a double-edged sword, man. You get more people to play with and have fun,
Mhm.
and then you have you have to deal with the people that just have better aim because they have the aim assist.
Absolutely. And
Kinda how I see
uh
it.
to also like, piggyback off of that as well. Do you remember Keyshawn playing Road Company? And this was before we found out about
Oh
like the
yeah,
aim
yeah,
assist. Keyshawn got on and was playing with mouse and keyboard, and he was average. But as soon as he put his controller on, he went from an average player to a god. Like literally fucking shit up. And it's because he's been playing on like PlayStation for so long
right.
that as soon as he plugged in his controller and he had like his more practiced version of aiming, he became a god. And it's like that with controllers. Like I'm not saying that it's easier to play on a controller, but when you have aim assist that is that heavily like I don't know like I don't know what I'm saying because I don't want it to sound bad because I'm trying to have a non-biased like response on it because I mean
It also comes down to the game too.
yeah
Like
but
Call of Duty has like what 3 different types of like options for your aim assist or some shit like
yeah
that.
yeah but like even with that like Keyshawn was a god on Call of Duty when we were playing that. Like, the aim assist wasn't even that bad on Call of Duty. I would even say that mouse and keyboard reigned supreme on Call of Duty. But the aim assist for, like, controller players is very obvious. Like, when mouse and keyboard, you're trying to, like, what we call trace a target. Like, basically just, like, stay on them as they're moving. And I'm terrible at that. It's very obvious when it's like an actual controller player because it's so perfect and smooth. It just stays locked on wherever you go, wherever that person goes. It like wherever they move to, you're just locked onto it, and there's no moving or shifting of aim. Like you can tell that it is completely locked in, and all you have to do is just minimal movement to assist yourself because the aim assist will handle everything else. It's actually kind of sickening. You look at it and you're like, fuck, man, that man's cracked. And then you're like, but wait a second, was that just a controller player or was that somebody that was actually cracked? 9 times out of 10, it was just the controller, like, helping him with his aim.
That's true, man. I feel that way.
But before we get on this like super long tangent about why I hate, aim assist and everything, I do want to go into like, some of our experiences with our first experiences with like console because both of us played console growing up. You also played more PC. I understand that, but I also think that you've told me that you played a little bit of console as well, right?
Yeah, I played PlayStation and Xbox.
Okay, easy. So then you definitely have like some of that Halo experience. Do you remember the aim like do you remember like aiming and stuff with a controller back then? It was not as prevalent as it is now. Like
Halo, it was very very little. I never really
mhm.
noticed it.
I don't think that we were like taught or trained to like really like understand that was aim assist. If there was aim assist, I never felt it. It was more of like I sucked for the longest time in Halo until I learned to like, control my sensitivity at like an 8. And 8 sensitivity is high as fuck. It's like very, very minor adjustments on the controller. But that's kind of like where you needed to play. You needed like a very high.
You had to have a high sensitivity on controller.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you wouldn't be able to like spin around. Somebody shoots you in the back, like you got to be able to whip to that target.
Right. It was
And I also want to throw this in there. We're not talking about campaign mode. We're talking about like Halo 2 multiplayer. Because like playing online and playing in the story, there's 2 different versions of aim assist that you have. You have basically full-on aim assist during the campaign, and you can see that in any game. Like you go and play Call of Duty right now, and you press the aim on the controller, it literally jumps from where you're looking to the target's head, and you get a headshot every single time. That's Call of Duty's campaign. In Halo, if you pull the aim trigger down, it actually jumps to the target as well. We're not talking about campaign mode. We're strictly talking about multiplayer. I understand that there's always been a level of aim assist in most games dating back to like the early 2000s, but we're not talking about that. We're strictly talking about a multiplayer setting, and the lack of or the somewhat aim assist that existed. But I want to get on like the controllers and everything more so than like the aim assist, because like, let's be honest, there's been some really shitty controllers that existed. Like, what's your take on, like, we talked a little bit about the old Xbox controller a little bit last week,
Right.
and I don't want to, like, go too much on a tangent on that because they were pretty bad.
I mean, I guess we could just go ahead and say that the original Xbox controller was just a fucking huge ass beast.
Mm-hmm. It was
Like,
its
not
own
good for your
thing.
hands. If you had small hands, good luck.
Especially reaching the black and white button. That was like, that was legitimately.
They did come out with the new revamped version of the controller, which was good.
Oh yeah, they did. You're right. Do you remember the spaceship or the spaceship looking one? It was a third party controller, but it was like really long. It looked like a Space Invader spaceship, but it was an Xbox One controller, and it was more popular than the original Xbox's controller.
No idea. You said Xbox One or original Xbox?
Yeah. Let me find this controller real quick, and I'm gonna send it to you.
I know with my experience with some controllers, the only controller I really enjoyed was probably just like the SNES one, because that introduced the left and right trigger.
Yes.
And I think also with the PlayStation, my very first PlayStation controller, it didn't have an analog. And when the analogs finally came out for the very first time, it was, to me and my brother, we were like, holy crap, how do you use this thing? We're not used
Yeah.
to this whole 360 thumb movement, you know? And
Oh
the first
yeah.
game we ever played was Ape Escape. And it
Oh
was
my
like
God.
super hard to get into. I was like, this is too much for me. But we finally adapted, and now it's just like, that's just a norm in controllers these days. You got to have that analog, man. Got to. So
No, I completely get that. Let's see. The analog, yeah, that wasn't out on the original PlayStation. You're right.
yeah,
It came out on like the PS1. Do you remember? Like, it used to just be called the PlayStation, and then they came out with like the PlayStation 1, which was that small white version. I think that was around the time that they introduced like the DualShock controller, right?
that's like the rumbling, right?
Yeah. Oh, I found it.
Yeah. It's like what, DualShock 5 now?
Oh no, it's dual. It's not DualShock anymore. It's something else. Like, they finally like grew past the DualShock controller, and now it's fuck. It's whatever the PS5. The current PS5 is what the new. Let me send this to you so I can gather my thoughts. This was the controller I was telling you about, the third party controller that was just way better. It was way better because instead of having the X and Y controller, or the, not the X and Y, the white and black buttons, like off to like the left hand or the right hand side of the buttons where it was really hard to reach. Now you could use a claw grip, which was really good because me and my brother both had a claw grip, and you could hit the black and white button with your Y and B finger, which was it was different.
That was something I never got into, was that whole claw and whatever style of like gripping a controller. I never really understood that. I just held the controller like I would normally hold a controller, whenever I used it.
It was
I'm assuming
more.
a claw is like you grab it as if your hand is in the shape of a claw, right? And you just play that way.
Yeah. So to explain it, let me get my controller out. Oh shit! I'll show everyone. This is what a claw grip looks like. You have your triggers here, It'd be like your middle fingers, or like your aim and your fire is where the trigger placement for that. Your bumpers are your pointer fingers, but at the same time, oh wait, no, that's a lie. On the right hand side, the trigger is your ring finger, the bumper is your middle finger, and then your claw grip is your I think it's X and Y you're supposed to use, yeah. So it'd be something like this.
Yeah.
It's weird. I wish I had a camera to actually show it a little bit better, but it's a pretty crazy looking thing. And well, we taught ourselves how to do that for one reason. Our buddy Doug was really big into fighting games, and he had like a fight stick and everything, and it was more to use that grip while fighting against him, because like we could hit combos a little bit easier. We could do like the double press buttons a little bit easier as well. Because you know how like certain fighting games had like you had to rotate the stick a certain way, and you had to hit X and B, or you had to hit Y and B, or like just like those weird fucking combinations. You know what I'm talking about?
Right. Yeah, I was never too big on fighting games growing up. I just never really got into them.
Oh, we weren't big on it. It was really just to kind of play with him. That was we were not good at all. Oh, but
Yeah, we
so
play fighting games just to kind of like have fun.
oh yeah, just like Smash.
It would be like whoever lost, you had to take a shot,
Oh shit.
and then you would just progressively get worse and then have to drink for the whole night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See,
I think when it comes to like fighting games, like I know whenever I watch like Evo, I see guys coming in, and I think it's just a total preference. Like you have guys coming in with your fight sticks. You got guys coming in with like I think one of the guys who won Evo one year, Luffy, he just played with a PlayStation controller. Didn't even have an analog on it. Just a regular PlayStation controller. He plugged it up and he won Evo with it.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, I believe so. I saw it. I was watching. I was like, how is this guy beating people?
I want to see this. I want to actually see this. I want to see like was he just using a normal grip? Was he?
I don't know. I just remember seeing a PlayStation controller in his hand, and he was fighting a guy that had like a whole fight stick and everything.
That's insane, dude. Hey, that just proves the age-old question. Like, do you need a fight stick for fighting games? And the answer is no. Like that proves it right there. You could literally be the best at something with just a non-modded controller.
That's true, man.
Wow. I gotta look that up.
Like, issues with your controllers?
Growing up? Oh shit, all the time. So it was more with like the Xbox 360 controllers. I grew up playing on like third-party controllers because I was a broke ass bitch, and Walmart sold them for like, $15 instead of like $30 or whatever it was back in the day.
The GameStop controllers.
Yeah, dude. That was another one. God, I forgot about
GameStop.
GameStop.
About in the last podcast, but like the clear ones, you could see the actual like chips and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, me and my brother religiously bought those instead of the actual branded Xbox controllers. It was just because, like, dude, if I was gonna break a controller, I want to break something that's like $9.99 and not break something that's $59.99 as it is now. Controllers are insanely overpriced, but I mean, I understand the technology that goes into it, like, but I don't think that it should cost as much as a fucking video game. Like, that's not the experience. The experience is not using that controller. The experience is the video game. So why is it that the content costs as much as the controller?
Well, I mean, it's hardware, man.
No. I think, and I'm not gonna go off on a tangent or anything, but I think it's just like a cash grab. They're just trying to squeeze as much money out of it as possible. And like, console isn't dying by any means. PlayStation 5 is the most sellingest console ever to exist. Like, they have so many products that get sold. So they don't need to like, overprice their stuff, but they're doing it so they can make more money and produce more video games. So I understand the whole reasoning behind it, like a business aspect.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your thoughts on like?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. What's your thoughts on like the whole controller nonsense? Like, third-party controllers have always been a lot cheaper, and like, why is it that the main product is always as expensive as it is? Is it just the brand that we're paying for?
I feel like back then with the third-party controllers, like the Mad Cats and all that, you didn't have like the companies we have today, like Razer, Logitech, and
True.
like these crazy, insane companies that kind of like they expand beyond what like your regular like Sony or
Peripheral.
Microsoft would do with their controllers.
True.
And they would like, and that was a market on its own. I remember the first time I ever got a somewhat upgraded version of a controller. I never really got one. I bought a Razer Naga. And that had like 18 buttons on it because I was playing World of Warcraft at the time, and I was like, I need these buttons.
Yes, I need that.
I need these buttons to do all this stuff that I'm doing. And it's like, and then along came, all the other Razer products that were like for console. I guess they tapped into that market. You had like all the other companies I can't even name half.
Corsair, Steel Series, HyperX, yeah. Logitech, Rockcat, dude, the list goes on, and there's so many brands out there now.
Yeah, it's oversaturated now, and you know everybody's probably equally good. It's just preference at that point.
It comes down.
Some controllers, I guess, will be better for like fighting games. Maybe they have it catered towards that, and then obviously it's just what games that the person plays.
Yeah. And like not to get too much on a tangent about mouse and keyboard, because this is specifically about controllers right now, but like look at all the different mice that exist out there. You have MMO mice, you have FPS mice, you have RPG mice, you have mobile mice, and it all falls into like whatever type of product that the consumer is going to be playing, right? So I mean, I'm pretty sure that they also have controllers that are branded around like certain like genres of game. I don't know too much about it, and I wish that we had somebody like on the show that could actually like give their perspective about it, because like me and you are like, obviously we're mouse and keyboard players, so we don't really have like a huge perspective on it.
One thing I know about controllers is like these, I don't know what it is. It's like these things you can attach. What is it called? The Cronus or whatever? It's like an adapter that you can attach to your controller, and it actually gives you even more aim assist.
What? Like how? Dude, I've never heard of that, honestly.
Yeah,
like, what are you talking about?
Cronus or something.
The Cronus.
I don't
That's
know
really interesting.
I don't know what they're specifically called, but what they do is they
it's like a script.
Like a script. You attach it to your controller or something, and I don't know if it helps with the aim assist. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I remember when I was playing a lot of Rogue at the time, a lot of the controller players would tell me about that, and it made the aim assist even more insane. But I don't really know much about those.
Let's see, the Cronus. Oh yeah, you're right, dude. It literally is just a it's a mod for your controller, and it runs scripts to assist the strength of your aim assist.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, like, dude, oh, that makes sense. This is why people have like cracked ass aim with their controller, and it feels like they don't even have to try. And I'm not saying that's that's the case. I mean, good for controller players for having stuff like this, because mouse and keyboard obviously is the better answer. No matter which way you look at it, objectively, mouse and keyboard will always be better. But
yeah, I think they're banned in a lot of tournaments though. You're not allowed to use them.
That makes sense. It should. Like this is good for like casual players to feel like they're at least like somewhat better than they actually are, you know what I mean? Or to at least like get themselves used to using a controller in some type of way. Like what I'm looking at right now is basically just like a little thing that you like slide onto your controller, and it's basically running all these scripts. You can, dude, thousands, tens of thousands of free scripts. That's insane. And you can use it on wait. It says that it has an advanced 1-to-1 controller to mouse conversion with no lag. That's insane.
I mean, that's just them probably trying to sell the product, man. I don't
Yeah, but still, like, if there is a 1-to-1 conversion on mouse and keyboard to that, like, it makes sense why their product is so good. And it's for every major platform. It can be used on almost any controller. That's insane. And they have racing wheels as well. Dude. Oh, that's insane. This product is making me a little randy over here.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably my extent of like controllers, to be honest with you. That's most I know about. Other than that, I just played normally.
Yeah, same. I don't really have a lot of experience with a lot of the modded aspects of controllers or anything like that. I basically just spent most of my time playing on an Xbox or a PS5 or PS3.
I know there's this one thing going on. I recently watched something about it. Scuff actually has a patent over the left and right trigger.
Really?
And I know Microsoft has to like give them a piece of the revenue or something like that. I could be going off about this, but that's why a lot of controllers you see don't have those. I think that's what it was. It was like the left trigger, right trigger. Someone could. I just know there was talk about how Scuff had a patent over a piece of like part of the controller.
No way.
Yeah.
So you're saying that everything that Microsoft or PlayStation makes all has to go back to this person called Scuff because they have a patent on triggers. That's insane. That man is literally loaded. That man is probably the second richest man in the world. Huh?
Scuff controller, they like have this patent on their like the controllers, and I know Microsoft like Microsoft pays them to use that for their controllers. I can't remember what it was.
Oh yeah.
It's like the back control functions is what it says. Is what I'm saying.
Oh, you're talking about the triggers that are on like the backhand side, right?
I think that's what it is.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's
a little bit different, but I think that could also be a like a type of trigger. Instead of using like having to pull your hands up or your fingers up to use like certain of the triggers, instead you can like actually play with all your fingers down and use like a trigger pull like down. I don't know. That's interesting. I would have to see like this thing actually being used so I could understand it a little bit more, because my head can't wrap around it right now.
Right.
So I got a question for you though. Who made the better controller?
You mean like what compared to like
out of any console, out of every console ever, who made the best controller?
I mean, I grew up with the PlayStation, but I think when it came down to it, I felt like the Xbox controller was a lot better.
Really?
Xbox,
which one?
I think it's the Xbox One or 360. Those controllers were pretty good.
Yeah, this is the Xbox One controller right here. Chat, I'll hold it up right here in front of the. But I think that you're absolutely wrong about that. I think that the DualShock to DualShock 4 was the most amazing controller that was ever invented. And I'll tell you why. It was the amount of control you had over your aim, the big old juicy fucking ball that was on top of the analog sticks, you could get so much more control out of it because there was like the amount of grip that you had on that analog stick. It just felt like you had way more precise aim. It felt a lot more comfortable than using the old divoted Xbox controllers. Like, I don't know how to explain this. This little divot that's down in this, I just don't think that that's very comfortable to use. I've always liked like a more rounded analog stick. I also feel like the area of the directional pad is also in a better place on the PlayStation. I like it more like up and having to like reach up to grab it with your thumb rather than having it down like where the other directional pad would be. I just think objectively the PlayStation had a much better sense of building a controller. That's why it sold more consoles. It had like way more love for the DualShock series before they came out with the DualSense series, which is their new controller. I just think overall, like objectively, the PlayStation just had a better controller overall. But like I want to know like why you thought the Xbox was better. You think it was just like the feel of it in the hand? It wasn't like just like odd shape or like what?
Well, I think when shooter games went from R1
Mm-hmm.
to R2 for like shooting, it really threw me off because like me growing up on the PlayStation 2, a lot of the shooting games I played, it was R1 to shoot.
Yeah.
And now it being R2, it just really threw me off, which is, R2 was like the right trigger for the Xbox. And, you have right
Oh
bumper,
yeah.
right trigger. And, most of my, like, growing up, I didn't play a lot of shooter. Like, if I played a shooter game on the PlayStation, it was mainly just because it was for the story and to have fun. But when it
Mm-hmm.
came to, like, the competitive aspect and playing, like, more games online, I was all about Xbox because I don't know, it just felt like more satisfying to like where the right trigger was and the right bumper
Mm-hmm.
just felt better, I
I
guess you
feel
could
that.
say. That was probably the main thing. I mean, I don't know, a lot of games that came out on the Xbox, man, like Halo, Gears of War, it was like if you think about the Xbox in general, it was just mainly action-packed shooter games that really came out for that thing.
1,000%.
So that's kind of how I felt about it, like playing Gears Online and all that. So I guess I was just more keen on just being more serious with the Xbox. So, that's more of a where my memory goes.
Mm-hmm. I
But I mean,
feel
I love
like
the PlayStation controller though. It's still good. Yeah.
I feel like the PlayStation controller has that more RPG feel to it because I played a lot of Final Fantasy growing up. That was like my main go. That was my main squeeze. Love Final Fantasy. I've beaten most of the games that I've played except 8, and I talk about 8 being one of the betters, and I've only played like maybe 10 hours of 8. Not even a lot of it. Every other
Yeah.
Final
Eight,
Fantasy game I've
eight's
put
like
in
100%.
like hundreds of hours into, like beat them multiple times. But like, I just feel like I can see that. I feel like for like an FPS standpoint or a TPS standpoint, that objectively, yes, I think the Xbox controller is a little bit better in that aspect. But maybe it's because I'm biased over like playing Black Ops and Gears of War and like Modern Warfare. Played that on Xbox, but for the most part, I played more like Skyrim and GTA 5 and what's another like good RPG game. GTA is obviously like an FPS maybe more third person, but actually yeah, thinking about it, they didn't come out with first person GTA until like 2015. Do you remember that? It used to only be played in third person.
Right.
Oh fuck. I forgot about that. Anyways, before we get off on too random of a tangent or anything, I think that we've pretty much discussed a lot of the things of controller.
As far as our knowledge goes.
Yeah, like I don't really have a super big fancy like library of knowledge for controllers, but mouse and keyboard on the other hand, I've been using that.
I do want to say one more thing about controllers.
Okay, let's go. What you got?
If you playing Dark Souls, you better have a controller.
Dude, thank you. Thank you for yes.
That was my last tidbit on the controllers.
No, let's go into that. Why do you think like RPGs felt a lot better? Like especially with like the dodge roll mechanic and being able to like look around.
You don't really need to aim in Dark Souls. I mean, you have to aim a little bit if you're using like the bow and arrow, but like it's all about the mechanics of the game and not less your aim. You know, you got to be able to like dodge, and it just was smoother. You know,
absolutely.
The controls on Dark Souls 1 were horrendous for the mouse and keyboard. You're already playing a pretty difficult game, and you're already handicapping yourself by not having a controller.
Oh yeah. So, no,
that's
I completely agree.
But there's only a few games that I know I'll play with controller, and Dark Souls is definitely one of them.
I felt like Morrowind and Oblivion were two of my favorite games, and I played those on controllers. Oh god, and it was just amazingly better on a console, in my opinion. Like when I played it on mouse and keyboard later on, I have Oblivion right now on Steam, and I just don't like it as much as I enjoyed the game while it was on a console. I don't know why. Maybe it was just like the nostalgia was fun to go back and experience, but there was something else about it, and I haven't really like figured that part out yet. Something just felt way better to play on an Xbox 360 or a PlayStation.
Down to like whether or not the developers are smart enough to like program the right kind of like mouse and keyboard buttons for their layouts and stuff.
Yeah, I just think it was smoother on controller, at least for like Oblivion. Skyrim is like that's a keyboard or mouse and keyboard all day. It just felt better to like. Well, I'll put it this way: like the frame rate of like whipping your camera around with a mouse and keyboard in Skyrim just looks way better. There's no like screen tear, but if I go and play it on Oblivion, there's like obvious screen tear from where. Like
that's why you gotta get the mods, man.
I mean, I play like Game of the Year edition, so I mean that's as much as I like to mod my games. I just like the extra DLCs to go to.
Well, you don't get like all the cool mods that are like on the websites and stuff.
Nope, never have.
You're missing out on that. That's a whole nother
game. Well, Skyrim, absolutely, not Oblivion or Morrowind. Like I like playing with the Thomas the Tank Engine mod where like all the dragons are Thomas the Tank Engine and plays the song every time they fly in. Fucking love that shit. Do 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 do.
That was pretty crazy. That was content for like days.
You're just sitting there dying of laughter. Or the Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah! 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 I fucking love that shit.
Freaking crazy.
I never played any like the other mods, though. I did more visual mods than like I know there's some pretty crazy like Akagi mods. I say Akagi only because we raid with Akagi. There are some mods where you could like nudify all the girls. There were mods that you could.
Do we want to talk about this on the?
Absolutely, this is an 18+ podcast. What do you mean? I'm not talking about it like in a sense where like it's pornography. It's not pornography. It's just like an art form. Like you can like get the top up. There was no like vajayjays or anything just flopping around in the wind. It was more just like boobies. You can make boobies appear because like back in that day there was no like weird sense of like you better cover yourself, woman. Like people didn't think like that. It was just like, hey, if you were poor, you were poor, and if you couldn't cover yourself, there was some boobies that just hung out, and like when armor ripped. Obviously, those girls kept fighting, even if their boobies were showing. They didn't just like, oh, you can't look at me. No, don't do that. You would die.
Right.
Things were different. That's why, like, I feel like, historically accurate content. Let's do it. Like Witcher. Like, look at Witcher. Look how much they give a fuck about showing off, like, the woman's body. They don't give a fuck because that's what kind of time they lived in. It's historically accurate. Even though The Witcher is the most or the least historically accurate game to ever exist because none of that shit existed.
Yeah.
Anywho, let's get on to mouse and keyboard now. The best, the master race, master race. How do you feel that like mouse and keyboards kind of like changed, or just PC as a whole has changed like the gaming scene?
Well, I can say that when it came to like, I wasn't really like around for like any of the competitive like Quake stuff or like,
Oh yeah.
I was kind of young at the time. But as far as that goes, obviously PC has kind of like become like the mainstream or is like a mainstream thing for like gaming.
Oh yeah.
I think it's kind of crazy how I used to play games where I didn't even use a mouse. I just used the keyboard.
Oh my god.
Like when I played Duke Nukem and like Doom and all that, you didn't look up or down. You just looked in a straight line and you just turned left or right. You just
Mm-hmm.
shot. And if there was an enemy that was above you, it would just auto aim to that enemy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember
True.
like when I first started using a mouse, obviously there was the ball mouse, right?
Oh
You had to
god,
clean
the
the
worst. You
dust.
gotta clean that ball, boy.
Yeah, and then you had like you could hang the mouse on the side of the fucking the huge ass monitor that was in your face. Everything was like it was just crazy, man. But yeah, that kind of was like my experience with at least the start of mouse and keyboard when I first started playing like video games.
I played my first experience with like mouse and keyboard again. It was ball mouse. Um, my mom was a teacher at a school, right? And I mean, where
Yeah.
else would she be teaching? But there was this like jet game, and I can't remember what it was, but like every single one of the computers had it downloaded. And I remember we would play that, or we would play like this like it was like a space game, and the space
Sure wasn't
game.
3D pinball.
Oh no, we played a lot of that too, but that was later on. I'm talking about like 1996, 1997, like Oregon Trail. You remember Oregon Trail?
Yeah.
Yeah, we played that. That was on just about every PC. But so there are like three or four different games that we could all play, and that was basically like my first time ever playing like PC, and I was terrible at everything. But I remember to clean that ball, you literally had to get the ball out, and then you had to go and get something like sharp, like a knife, and scrape off all the weird shit on the little roly parts on the inside of the mouse. That was what got dirty. It wasn't the ball. The ball was always clean. It never got dusty. You'd take that shit out and throw it, so you could throw it in a fucking pile of fucking hair and it wouldn't get hairy. It would just be sitting there. You'd pull it out and be perfect. But for some reason, those little spinny parts that were like little wheels inside of the mouse, you had to sit there and scrape just gunk after gunk after gunk. And, I mean, it only took like 2 or 3 days and you were doing it again. It was like a constant thing that you had to do. You had to keep that mouse clean at all times. Or you would get problems where the ball would roll over that point and the mouse wouldn't be able to pick it up. The mouse would literally just sit there. Whatever game you're playing wouldn't move. Terrible.
I know
Or,
another part of the mouse and keyboard I want to talk about actually is like the mouse pad itself.
oh yeah.
I used to use like those really small mouse pads that were like round and blue,
Mm-hmm.
and
And it
then I
had like the
evolved
little
into the
wrist.
yeah, and then I evolved into that ergonomic. I think is what
Mm-hmm.
it is, ergonomic, where it helps your wrist.
Yeah.
I remember using that growing up too. I was like, "What is this thing?" And I just never,
Mm-hmm.
I was never a big fan of it. And I remember When I finally got a mouse pad that was bigger than the size of my hand, I was just so happy.
Man, that is the fucking truth. I remember like one of the first mouse pads I ever got was like a gift from a friend, and it was like an ergonomic version, but it was like this anime chick with like big old titties, and the ergonomic part obvious were the titties, and you would put it like right in the middle. It was like real squishy. I had that for
What
the
kind of mouse
longest
pads
time.
did you shop for at
I told you it was a gift. I didn't buy it. Somebody else bought it for me because they knew I liked
you
anime and they
did
were
you
making fun of me.
mail yourself a mouse pad under a different name?
No. Like my mouse pad growing up was this my mom liked this certain type of like painting design. It was like houses, like fantasy houses. They're out in the middle of the wilderness, but not fantasy, more like realism houses in a fantasy world, stuff like that. But my mom got a new mouse pad, and that was the old one, and she gave it to me to use instead on like my computer. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it was literally so small. Oh god. I remember using that too. And like mouse pads were different. They weren't made of cloth like they are now. It was made of like a plastic material. And you needed just something smooth that ball could roll over. And then I remember like them coming out with the first like laser mouses, and it was just like a red laser.
Yep.
Do you remember that? The red lasers before they came out
Yeah,
with
you
like
can blind your
the
friends with it.
yeah, true. Hey, look at this. Let me know if my mouse is working. Ah, shit. And then like we'll get onto it later, but Razer, I want to say, or Logitech, one of them were like one of the first ones to come out with this new laser that we have now, the one where it's no lights. It's like mirror driven laser that like reflects off a bunch of things and gives you more like of an accurate I guess position of where your mouse is. It's insane to see like how crazy mice have become over the years, where it used to be a little ball that was inside of your keyboard that was all built into the computer, and that's how you got around. And then it moved to a mouse that had the little ball inside of it, and you tracked around with that on a really shitty surface. It could literally track on any surface. It didn't matter. And then it moved over to those red lasers, which, like you said, could blind your friends, but it was like a little bit more accurate. And then they jumped over to this, and now it's like insane how accurate the control that you have over your mouse is.
Did you ever play any games on a laptop with the mouse
Oh,
trackpad?
1,000%.
And it
Actually,
had that little knob on it which could move the mouse. It looked like an
mm-hmm.
eraser, like the top of an eraser on a pencil.
Yes, yes, absolutely. But I didn't have a laptop like that. I know what you're talking about. A buddy of mine had one. Um, but I definitely used a trackpad in my first couple raids, and wow, it was terrible.
Jeez.
Absolutely
You might as
terrible.
well just play with a clicker.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't click. I still use like I would scroll with my middle finger, and I would hold down the right click with my ring finger, and then I would click like enemies and stuff with my thumb on my right hand, and then I would use like obviously the rest of it like a normal keyboard. I was pretty good with it, dude.
I
As good
believe
as you
in that.
can be. As good as you can be. That trackpad shit, I'm glad I don't use that anymore. Woo, that shit was bad. Let's talk about
Yeah.
like, we talk about more of our first experiences and everything. I just want to go ahead and let everybody know that we are not sponsored by any of these products. We're giving like an unbiased response to all of this. I'm a big Logitech fan, always have been. Everything that I own is Logitech. Supa's probably the same way with a certain type of product. I bet it's like Razer or something. Actually,
I've always
what do
been
you
a
use?
Razer guy.
Really? It is Razer?
Well, I
Let's
used
go.
Logitech for a bit, but I don't know, man. I had like two Logitech mice give out on me. So
Yeah.
I still have the keyboard, but the mice, I don't know.
Yeah, I've
And
always
then I found out that most of Logitech's mice are typically a little heavier, and I'm more of a light mouse kind of guy.
I feel that. That's why I started using like this new Logitech mouse. It's called the 203. It's the
Okay.
lightest mouse that I've ever used, and I love that for my FPS. Now for like my MMO mouse, I use an FPS mouse that is a lot heavier. I don't even use like a real like MMO mouse.
Right.
I prefer like key binding a lot of things for like MMOs on my keyboard rather than using a mouse for it, because I think the mouse is more of just a crutch for those weak-bodied individuals that, you know, can't do key binds on their keyboard. That's a shot, by the way, to everyone that uses an MMO mouse. I'm just kidding. But like I said, we're just letting you know that we're not sponsored by any of this. So if anyone reaches out and wants to sponsor the podcast, Logitech, Razer, Corsair, whatever it may be, we love you guys. We love y'all's products. And you can send an email down in the description below to the business email. We appreciate it. But let's talk about, like, you know, of those brands. Let's give a non-biased perspective of like what is the best in the business right now as it stands. Like, and actually, let's go back in the past. What was the best product to ever exist? Now, I'm going to go ahead and say that Razer, when it came out, by far the best mouse and keyboards
Razer was
that
like
existed.
the first company to really emphasize gaming
Gaming.
accessories.
Oh yeah, it was for gamers by gamers. That was literally their like their catchphrase for all of their products was like, hey. And on top of that, you remember like when you bought a Razer product, you would get that little pamphlet of all those, like, it would tell you like about the product, like who made it, like what it's good for, like everything. Like, that's one reason why I loved Razer products, is they put so much care and attention into their like the presentation of opening up the package.
100% agree. I know eventually as the years went on, like other companies started like coming out, like you said, Corsair, Logitech started investing more into like gaming accessories and Steel Series and HyperX and shoot, I don't even know, Final Mouse. You had all kinds of like companies surfacing. But at the start of it, definitely Razer was the
The
beginning.
forerunner.
I feel like. I mean, you had like when you thought of like the Mad Cat stuff, you thought of cheaply made. You know, when you thought of video game accessories back then, you thought of, if you weren't using like the Sony version or the Microsoft version, then you were kind of getting like, you know, you're kind of getting some knockoff brand. But now these brands are like, you know, they've surpassed what, you know, the Sony and Microsoft actually come out with in their consoles.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm eating a protein bar right now. It won't go down.
They're dense, man. They got put like 260 calories into that one little bar.
I know, man.
I mean, a mint, so
You're eating a mint?
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you can fit a whole man in your mouth.
Exactly.
How big is he? Are we talking like Evermore's size, or are we talking like my size? Because we all know Evermore has got that big dick energy, but he's only like 5'2", right?
I think he's like my height.
I know. I'm joking. I love you, Evermore.
My height.
Yeah, Evermore's my boyfriend. Everybody, don't get that wrong. I love that man. Anyways,
If you insist.
nah, that's a joke. Anywho,
Right.
I think like I'm a big fan of like Logitech stuff, and I used to be a really big fan of Razer, obviously because of Swifty. I played a lot of WoW and getting off a trackpad and going to a Razer Naga. Like, the original Razer Naga was one of the best mice that has ever come out, ever.
I thought you didn't
hands down.
People who use buttons on a mouse.
Well, here's the thing. You got to use the product to hate the product. Like, I have an opinion on it, and I just figured that it was more of a crutch, and I did worse in MMOs with those mice.
Right. I can understand. It could it could add like confusion if you're trying to do your rotation. Also, if you actually try to mount up or something.
Well, it was more of the fact that like it was a lot easier, and I like the challenge of playing video games. I don't want everything to be like super easy all the time, even though like it is literally a quality of life. 1,000%, it's a quality of life thing, but I don't want a quality of life change to that extent to where like I can do my entire rotation on my mouse hand and never have to touch my keyboard other than to move. I would much rather have like a good balanced medium. And I use a lot of shift modifier. Okay, so this is like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is an 8-button mouse over here, but it's an FPS mouse. So it has like a lot of like different grenade or melee buttons and stuff like that. And I use shift and control and alt modifiers on my mouse still with those 8 buttons, and 2 of them being like the actual like the main mice buttons. Actually, it's a 9-button mouse. I forgot about the middle mouse button. Anyways, like I said, I use like shift and control and alt modifiers for my mouse still, but I don't rely heavily on using an entire rotation with just my mouse hand. A lot of my cooldowns and everything are on my...
Definitely.
And see, I think that's what a lot of people do. Like I hate to like call Rice out like this, but Rice literally only uses his mouse, and I don't understand like how people can do that. Yeah, he only uses his mouse. Like, if you go and look at his setup for Final Fantasy, everything is on his mouse. 1 through 10, control 1 through 10, and shift 1 through 10. And he uses like a different type of like movement as well. He uses like the old standard or the old way of moving in Final Fantasy, where like if you press S, your character turns around and looks the opposite direction and runs that way. It's like a different kind of feel to things. And like, I guess this is just like me like putting my biased response of like how not understanding how he does that, because I have a very weird way that I play MMOs as well, but I don't know. Like, I don't understand like putting all that pressure on one hand. Because that's a lot of things to keep up with, and like for one hand to keep up with your entire rotation, I just think that it's kind of flawed to do that. You could like share the responsibility between both hands and kind of lighten the load, and not have to like rely so heavily on your thumb to press all those buttons, because your thumb's gonna get worn the fuck out, you know, pressing those buttons over and over and over and over and over. Sooner or later, it's going to get tired or have a cramp or, I don't know, something. That's why I always thought, like, it was better to...
keyboard, too.
Huh?
I thought he uses keyboard, too.
When
I'm watching his streams, he's got his hand, like, he's pressing 1 through 5.
I've never seen him use, like, his keyboard. I've only ever seen him using, like, his big MMO mouse. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know what 1 through 5 could be, like something on a different bar that I'm just not paying attention to.
Most people would at least use 1 through 5, you know, and not like, I mean, I know back in the day you had like clickers who just use the directional pad to move.
Hey, Eva is a clicker? What do you mean? I'm trying to get her away from it too, dude. Like, I'm like, please.
She's a clicker?
Yeah.
It's 2021. You better tell her to evolve.
I've been telling her. I'm like, look, you gotta evolve, baby. Like, you gotta stop all this like clicking. Let me help you set up these keybinds. I promise they will be so much better and easier.
Tell her if she looks at the top left, there's a WASD on her keyboard. I'm just
kidding. I mean, she uses that, but like, she uses like her mouse for like her rotation, and then she clicks her cooldowns. I'm like, look, you gotta change that.
Would be, man.
I know, man. I keep telling her like, look, if you keybind it, you're already amazing at this game. Imagine how much more amazing you could be at this game. Like you're just like evolving to further increase like your skill level.
So, any other brands that you can think of in terms of like off the top of your head that like nice keyboard controllers?
So yeah, actually, I think Corsair does a really good job with their mice. They actually have a really good MMO mouse that my little brother uses, and he gives a lot of compliments to it. I can't remember the exact product it is, but it's a version of their MMO mouse, and you can like switch it from left hand to right hand mode, meaning like you can like you're not like handicapped to only having one side of the mouse. You can interchange the plates on either side of the mouse, and it be like interchange between a left hand and right hand mouse. I want to say HyperX makes some of the best like cheap headsets out there.
Yeah, I think their headsets are their like
bread and butter. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then for like keyboards, Logitech all day. I'm not a fan of any Razer product that exists out there. Like they were the forerunner, but that doesn't mean or they were like one of the first products to ever hit the market, but that doesn't mean they're the best. I think that they've like fallen off in their quality over the years. Sure, they make like sturdy products that aren't going to like break under the pressure of playing over and over and over, but I feel like Logitech has jumped them on some mice, and their keyboard quality is absolutely better on Logitech. And that's unbiased, and that's not because I'm a Logitech fan. That's strictly because I've used Razer products like their keyboards for a very long time, and like the Black Widow. Really big fan of the Black Widow, but I just feel like the Black Widow like fell off compared to like my current keyboard, which is the I can't even remember now. I'd have to look at it. But as far as like mice go, I think the best mouse that ever existed was a SteelSeries mouse. You can fight me on that too. SteelSeries made some of the first MMO mice as well. They were right there with Razer, and I feel like their product only got better, while Razer kind of was only worried about making money and making the product a mass producer, while SteelSeries like honed in to the idea of making a mouse strictly for MMOs and RPGs, and their mice quality was far better in that aspect. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with Razer products, and I'm not saying like if you have Razer product that it's a bad thing or anything, but like I said, I feel like a lot of their quality has gone down over the years, where they used to care a lot, they don't care as much anymore. It's only about like mass producing and making money off of it.
Right.
Oh, and one more thing too. Corsair makes really good headsets as well. They make decent keyboards, not the best, but I would say like Corsair definitely has like a good market for like keyboards and their or sorry, not the keyboard, their headsets and their mice. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think when it came to like why Razer, a lot of people don't really see Razer as like the top dog anymore, is because like as the years go by, technology kind of advancing. More people are starting to game on the PC more.
Yeah.
And like with that, you had all these other markets or companies, making. And I think Razer, while it's still a good product, you just had other companies catching up with them.
Yeah.
And now you have all these competitors competing for like, oh, I want you to buy my mouse. I want you to buy my mouse. We have this technology. We have, all this. We have more DPI. We have that laser sensing, whatever it is that, when you look at the back of a mouse or whatever, you read it and you see all this like information that tries to sell it to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also,
Usually,
I think another big thing is when it came to like the esports, you see all these pro players, they're using this mouse, they're using that mouse, and whoever your favorite esports player is, you're probably gonna go with what they like. I mean, that's just kind of throwing
absolutely.
that out there. That's throwing that out there. Sponsorships are a big thing.
Mm-hmm. And see, a lot of those people, they don't necessarily use Logitech or Razer or whatever the mouse they might use because they like it. It's strictly because they're getting paid to.
Right.
Like what's his name? Sneaky from League of Legends. He was sponsored by Logitech for the longest time because Cloud9 has like a big sponsorship with him. That man used Razer product all the time in his spare time. 1,000%. You could even see it like on a lot of his streams. He would show like his mouse every now and then, and there'd be a Razer literally sitting right beside it. He would bring the Logitech in whenever he was like acting like he was playing with that mouse, or he would do it for like a product placement. But the man would literally use Razer products all the time, and that's because like you have a preference for your mouse, and then you have your sponsored mouse.
Yep.
So like you always have to stay in like the right side. You have to stay in your lane basically when it comes to like the product placements and everything. Like if we were sponsored by a product, 1,000%, I would rock it for the podcast. 1,000%. Just like the merch. You guys can go down to the description down below and you can find some of the merch. Shameless plug. But no, I'm 1,000%. Like, dude, if there was a sponsorship, you're going to rock that over like whatever your preferred brand is any day of the week. No matter what it is, because like you're getting paid to basically promote that product in some type of way. So
yeah. All right. So we talked a little bit about mouse and keyboard, a little bit what we know about controllers. We want to get into the whole like shtick
before we get to that, because I know it's coming and we're gonna have a nice juicy conversation on that. I want to ask you 2 more questions about mouse and keyboard.
Okay.
How do you feel about RGB and wireless versus wired? Go.
Well, I've recently transferred to wireless mouse. I actually bought the same exact mouse that I'm holding right now. It's the Death Adder. It's my FPS mouse.
Mm-hmm. Is it
The
good?
reason why is because I rock a very low DPI. I run like 400 DPI.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to aiming for me, I gotta have the whole desk. Like I have a huge ass mouse pad that literally encompasses my whole desk. And right now my desk is, or my mouse pad alone is housing 2 keyboards and 3 mice, a stream deck, and a controller. So it's like I need all that room. And with having with the wire that I have, like I probably don't have the greatest like what is the word I'm trying to say? Wire management. But it was always causing an issue when I'm trying to like do flicks. I'm trying to do like, 180s and stuff. Because it would get caught and like you can't, if it gets caught like a dog on a leash, right? It's gonna just get like stuck. So that was one of the big things for me in terms of like the wireless experience. And then obviously with controller, like the greatest, feeling is not having to like sit 2 feet in front of the TV to play a game. You can just sit on your couch. No one's gonna trip over it. That's probably the best thing about wireless when it comes to controllers. And at first I was very sketchy about getting a wireless because I always have this like idea in my head that like being wired to something is going to give me that 100% like connection feel,
Yep.
Whereas wireless, there might be something that kind of tampers with that, connection, and that could be it. We're done. It's over. So that's how I feel personally about the wireless versus the wired. I don't know about
I've
you.
never used wireless at all, ever. Not since like the old original like Logitech like the little shitty mice. I used to raid with one of those before I got my first like Razer Naga. But I've not used wireless since then, and the main reason is because I always had like this weird disconnect between the mouse and the actual computer. It always felt like it was a little bit lagged behind. And I don't know if you've ever felt that, and if wireless capabilities are better now, I might want to try it out because
I think that's
like
another thing too.
my biggest complaint by far is, and you can see it right here, I have tape on my monitor for a very specific reason, because when I play FPS games and I'm trying to flick, my mouse cord gets caught up, and I'll complain about it. So I know Supa's heard me say it before, like, fuck my mouse cord, fuck!
Yeah, I remember
like,
that. My mouse
dude,
cord.
oh, that is the most annoying thing when you're trying to shoot somebody.
Isn't there like a product they sell that like can wrap your mouse cord?
Yeah,
And, like keeps it
but
in a certain position so it won't screw you.
Yeah, I've never used it though. I've always been like a duct tape kind of guy, duct tape on the back of the monitor to like duct tape it up and away. And I can still use like the majority of my mouse pad, because I also use like a 3.5 foot mouse pad on my desk, and I have a Stream Deck, I have my webcam on a tripod, I have a monitor sitting on it, I have my controller sitting on it, two mice on it. The very edge, the very left-hand side is my main monitor and my keyboard, and then like just whatever else sits on it, mostly like food and shit when I'm eating. But no, I completely understand that. I have to use my entire desk because I also use like 180 DPI or something on my mouse.
180?
Yeah. What do you use actually?
You said 180.
Yeah, I
You
use
use more than
180.
me.
Yeah. Wait, really?
I'm
Wait.
400.
What the fuck? That's not low. That's like medium, bro.
400 DPI is pretty low, man.
Nah, bro, dude. Like you understand now. Like when I talk about whipping, I fucking whip, dog. To do a 180, I have to move my mouse all the way across my my mouse pad twice, and it's very quick. It's in quick succession. I just like flick the whole time. I'm just
100. Why 180?
I don't know. It's like what I've been used to. I usually turn like the sensitivity in game up to like a 10. It's like a good medium between like certain games I can play on like a 2, and then certain games I can play on like 5 to 10. I don't ever go anything above a 10 though. It's just way too much.
Okay, I guess personal preference.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I grew up watching like Summit, and Summit like had really low DPI. And I always just told myself, I'm going to get good at shooters, I'm going to use super...
180? That's crazy low, man.
I don't think he uses 180. I think he uses like 3 something, like 320, something like that. That's where his DPI is. I don't know, dude. Like, I've just always, like, I got long-ass arms. I thought, like, hey, if anything... If there's one thing that I have an advantage of...
I can't even go to 180 on my mouse. It stops at 200.
What? Dude, I can go all the way down to like 60. That's why Logitech is better, everyone.
Bro,
not sponsored.
That's really slow.
It is 1,000%. It's super ass slow.
That's crazy.
Let me check actually. I don't know if it goes below 100. I think 100 is actually the lowest.
That's nuts.
So
on another note, with the RGBs, I think you asked me that.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I could care less, honestly.
Dude, I think this is why me and you get along. I don't give a fuck about RGB, even though my Splitgate skin is literally RGB.
Like, I could turn the lights off on the keyboard. The only lighting I have in my computers are like the CPU, the fan. Every now and then there'll be like a little glow, but like I guess when it comes to like RGBs, it's kind of like it comes down to like as if you are a kind of a person that likes the whole like aesthetic look, kind of like, being a car owner, right? You want your car to look nice and flashy and shiny. Because I know a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll take their setups to like conventions and they kind of show it off like, oh, this is my rig, this is what I do on my gaming rig.
This is my rig.
So it makes sense that, people like invest into RGBs. I personally could care less. I don't really like care too much about it. If it's there, when I turn it on, cool, it's nice.
Yeah,
If it were to go
absolutely.
out, I wouldn't even care. I'd be like, whatever.
If there was a way that I could literally like turn the RGB off on my PC, I would. But it's because like all the products nowadays have RGB on them because it's like the aesthetic, like you said. My keyboard flickers purple, like super dark purple, so I only need it there. So like if my hand somehow comes off keyboard and I can't find the little F key, because you know how it always has that little notch on it. That's how I like guide myself back to WASD.
Right.
If I can't somehow like guide myself back, I like to like look down and be like, okay, there it is. I got my hand on again. That's the only time I use like an RGB. My FPS mouse though has this setting that I love about it. Like whenever I'm playing a video game, it like flickers to the sound. That's the only thing that I really like about it, but it flickers like dark purple. Like I keep most of my stuff like super dark to where it's not like distracting. I don't want like bright fucking lights flickering off and be like, oh, look at me, look at my mouse. Like, no, I don't need any of that shit, dude. Like, it's a fucking mouse. Like, I grew up when none of this shit existed. Anyways, it used to be a fucking boring ass gray mouse. I could care less what it does. Like all the aesthetic versions. Like, I don't care about that shit. As long as I can shoot people in their head.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it there.
RGB is
Anything
for,
else?
RGB. People that like RGB are usually like, you know, those weak-minded individuals that need like, they need somebody to tell them that they're pretty or something. I don't know. Like,
I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I just didn't really care too much for it. I mean, they're nice to have.
yeah, absolutely. Uh, Well, let's just go ahead and get into this discussion because this is going to be the longest part of our discussion today, guys. Keyboard and mouse versus controller. What's better? Why is it better? Objectively, why is it better? Let's get into this. Now, I want Supa-Buz'd to lead it off because I promise I will go off on a tangent if I begin this shit right now. But why do you think that mouse and keyboard's better? Because I already know your answer. And why do you think that controllers have such a hard time with it?
Who do I think is better?
Yeah, like objectively speaking, in different games. Like we'll start with FPS since both of us are like big FPS nerds.
I mean, if
Objectively,
it
why
comes
is it
down to a
better?
shooter game, I always would do mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, but why is it better?
Why is it better?
Yeah, I
You
mean
have
I know
more
why it's better.
fine, you have more fine aiming that you can do. You have the whole hand to aim with versus, your thumb, which is on the analog of the controller.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why, you don't have aim assist on PC. If aim assist was on PC, it would be over for console, dude. There would
It'd
be
be
no
done.
chance.
Yeah.
No chance at all. But like when we talked about in the beginning of the podcast, I feel like it's a lot more people are playing shooter games.
Mm-hmm.
Apex is free.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of free to play games are shooter games because they you can just jump in and play.
Yep.
And your average PC player is probably going to be better than your average console player if they didn't have that aim assist. Just naturally, I feel like the mouse and keyboard is going to be better than the console player. That's why they need that stronger aim assist to help them get by.
Yeah, absolutely.
How I see it. If it came down to like who does better, the way I see it is that controller will always kind of like you could be the best like controller player in the world, but if you were to go up against the best
Mouse and keyboard, you're gonna get
mouse and
fucking
keyboard,
smoked.
you're probably gonna lose. You're gonna hit that skill cap. I talk about
Yep.
this a lot on my stream that you're gonna hit that wall as a controller player, and that's why a lot of the guys I know who like played Rogue Company, they switched to mouse and keyboard because they wanted to do better. They didn't want to stick with that crutch of having the aim assist. They wanted to get better and just become, Shroud level.
Yeah,
Aiming.
no, I completely agree. I played a lot of Call of Duty back in the day, and the aim assist wasn't necessarily as strong as it is in most of the games now. But we still had like little
man. Crossplay.
Yeah, it like crossplay is literally what made it so bad. And I want to agree with you completely. Like mouse and keyboard objectively is the best form of aim out there, and you can fight me on that any day. Until they come out with like VR aim, full on VR, to where like there's no lag in between it. You pull up a gun and you start shredding.
When I played Half-Life Alyx,
Yeah,
it actually felt like I was in a battlefield, dude. It was nuts.
I wanna play VR so
It's good,
badly.
dude. It's really good. I
Uh,
mean, I just don't have enough room for my VR. That's the issue. Like, I need a whole room.
I feel that
I'm
one
hitting my
day.
green screen half the time. I'm hitting my table. I just if I ever get my own house, I would probably move my VR downstairs, and that would
Yeah,
just be
man.
part of like if you were ever to come hang out, you want to play some VR, boom, like right there.
That's literally what like my friend David does at his house. He has like his own VR room, and you go in there and you fucking play some fucking VR, dude. It's fun, dude. That's why I want one, because I've never like actually owned a VR headset. It'd be fun to just have it to play it. Yeah. But back to the topic at hand. We'll talk about VR another day, because that is actually a topic. That's a whole nother topic right there.
So
I want to say that I want to say this about controllers. I don't hold this against them. I talk a lot of shit about controller aim. I'm probably one of the biggest advocates for I don't like crossplay. I don't think it's fair for like new mouse and keyboard players to go against like god level aim controller players and them also get the crutch of aim assist. Aim assist is one of the biggest crutches that I've ever witnessed on a game. Like, for you to be able to trace me better than I can with a mouse and keyboard means that I need to get better, obviously. But at the same time, I don't think that level of play, like, especially if you're just starting out, you're like a level 2 or level 3 account going into your first match, and like everyone else is at the same level as you. They're brand new to the game, but objectively, that controller player who doesn't understand the game at all but gets that crutch of aim assist is going to be better than you only because there is a crutch allowing him to be better than you. It does not mean that his aim is better. It literally means that he is relying upon a crutch to assist him in being able to kill you on a mouse and keyboard. Now, for me, personally, I find that offensive as fuck. Like, why the hell would you allow somebody that literally has aimbot built into their controller to be able to come in and play against me with a mouse and keyboard? I have to literally trace the fuck out of a head. And I'm not good. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm good with a mouse and keyboard. I'm terrible at shooting, and I know that. But, like, I don't want to play against somebody that literally has a robot built into their controller that is helping them assist them in aiming better. Fuck that shit. That's just some pussy shit. That's why I say controllers are for pussies, and I will always stand by that shit.
Do you think maybe the reason, the console aim or like controller aim, whatever you want to say it, is obviously one, mechanically it's harder for them to aim, right?
Well, yeah.
But do you also think that maybe that console just has a like larger number of casual players?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They come home from work, they just work like a 8-hour shift, they're tired, they just want to just jump on some Apex, play a couple rounds, have a good time. They don't really have a lot of time to sink into a game and like better themselves, Whereas, like, you have mouse and keyboard guys, a majority of mouse and keyboard players, computer players, PC players, however you want to put it,
spend a lot of fucking time playing the game.
It's kind of like it's their pastime. They spend more time on that. And, they play games. It's like their hobby, Like, a perfect example would be, like, my brother-in-law. He gets about maybe 2 hours out of the day to, like, play video games. And, like, I know one night we were all just, like, hanging out, drinking and stuff, and he was playing Apex, and I was watching him play. I don't know if it was just the alcohol, but like seeing his like game sense versus like mine, like me watching it, I'm like, bro, he's over there on the right, and he's like taking his time still. He doesn't even see the other guy that's like coming at him.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like, maybe that's just because, a lot of people on console, they need that aim assist because it's just more enjoyable. If he
Yep.
didn't have that aim assist, he probably wouldn't have killed anybody. That's kind of how I see it.
So
But
I
I
want to
know
go.
where you're coming with like the hardcore console players
Mm-hmm.
who are like super like into it.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
and
They're
and
probably
they
just
literally
like,
rely on that crutch to be good. Like, why don't you stop relying on a stupid fucking crutch like aim assist and buy a fucking PC and get good? Like, I'm trying to get good. Like, I started doing like aim trainers and shit to also better myself because I don't want to be sitting here like talking shit about controllers and everything, and then me not putting in the effort to be better. You know what I mean? But like, I feel that. And I'm going to piggyback off of the topic about, like, the game sense. I literally watch my buddy Joey. I go over to his house and, like, play video games with him, like, once a week. Just because that's, like, fun for me not to, like, have to worry about doing a stream that day and just casually be able to play some video games with a homie. Me and him were playing this game called Medal of Honor on the hardest difficulty. And my game sense compared to his is insane. Like, where I'm watching enemies like come out of like a doorway or something, and I'm immediately like tracked on them and like firing and putting, rounds down range to like suppress the enemy. He like takes his time with everything. Everything's like super slowed down, and I feel like when I watch him, I'm watching like somebody watch a video at like negative point, like super slow motion, basically. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but like I feel that like everything is like the casual aspect of the game is like being able to go through the game and casually beat it in any type of way that you want. But like how me and you are programmed is like competitive as fuck. Like, I want to shoot that man in his head as fast as possible. He is not even going to have a chance to aim at me. You ever get that? Like,
oh yeah, if I play a competitive game, I'm in it to win.
oh, 1,000%.
Unlike Paladins, I'm just kind of there to have fun. Kind of changed my ways on that.
Really? You're not competitive on Paladins anymore? That's why you're cussing this morning?
This morning? What do you mean?
Yeah, man, I saw you. Don't lie to me. I saw you on PG this morning. Fuck! Andrew! Do something! You suck! Come on, man.
Stream on PG this morning.
Oh, dude. Chinny told me. See, like... You got me.
I mean,
wait, I thought you had PG this morning.
I did, but I skipped it. But
why?
On that note, it also comes down to like your teammates too. Like, that's another thing. Imagine, like let's say you talking about like, let's say the console players didn't have aim assist, right?
Mm-hmm,
what if your team was composed of all console players?
I would hate them. Like, no crossplay. Let them go back and play against controller players with no aim assist, and they can get better at, not having aim assist to, like, crutch themselves against mouse and keyboard players. That's literally how you fix that. Just don't let console players play against mouse and keyboard players. But, I mean,
it's nice and all, but I feel like it also, like, it's just kind of like getting with the times, man. Like, we got to just learn to deal with the fact that they may have a little bit of an upper hand on us.
I don't want to deal with it. I want to go back to mouse and keyboard when I get.
We gotta better ourselves as mouse and keyboard players.
Yeah,
we can continue to grow. They're gonna hit the
skill cap. Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
Hit that cap.
That's why I do these aim trainers.
I spend time on Kovacs every now and then. I'll burn an hour or two on Kovacs, watch some streams. I would just try to better my aim, man. That's kind of how I try to do it, at least.
Yeah, if I play Splitgate, I try to do like 30 minutes before, like just bam, 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 hitting targets, and like head size targets. I don't like doing body size targets. I'm trying to like tap heads. So like when I play Splitgate, I want to be able to ping, 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 ping all day. And like I don't know if I'll ever get back to like being good at shooters. I don't think I'll ever get back to the point I was when I was playing MnK in 2017. I'll never get back to that level because I was a god. But kids, if you're listening to us right now, know that just because you have a talent, if you don't continue to use that talent, it will go bye-bye. if you go and focus on other games like MMOs or RPGs or anything like that, make sure you're still putting in practice on your aim. Because use me as an example. I used to be really fucking good at aiming, and now I'm trash.
I mean, it happens, man. Like with me, Counter-Strike was like my go-to. I grew up playing a lot of Counter-Strike. I was really good at it.
Yeah.
But, I just kind of stopped focusing. During that time, man, there was no like crazy esports. I mean, there was, but it wasn't like it is today where you have like tens of thousands of people watching like League of Legends and Counter-Strike and all that. There was never that idea that you could be a esports
Professional
player and make money. Yeah, professional gamer. There was that. There was nothing like professional streamers. None of that. It's just like you played it and had fun. And I think a lot of times people have kind of like lost sight of that. Whereas like just have fun with the game.
Yep. And it's all about the competitive aspect. I want to be the best of the best of the best of the best. Instead of just, I want to have fun. That's why, like, I guess I kind of got casual in that aspect. I'm not about being the best of the best anymore. I just want to, like, chill with my homies, play some games, have a good time. Stuff like that. I'm all about, like, the more casual side of enjoying video games. Unless it comes to FPS games and Paladins. Those are the only two games I get, like, super competitive over. As far as MMOs go, I don't give a fuck if I'm top DPS anymore. When it comes to RPGs, I don't give a fuck if I'm trying to rush through the story to beat the game as fast as possible. I don't give a fuck about that. I just try to have, a good time.
Right.
But I also have a question about platformers. You, sir, are a big platform gamer. You love those games. I see you playing them all the time. Ori, the Wisp.
Yeah, like those are a lot of fun.
Is that what you like grew up playing?
Oh yeah, man. I love the Castlevania series. I also played like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, a lot of those.
Yes.
Mario, obviously, right? Mario was like the start of it all, honestly, for me.
Oh yeah. So, question about that: controller or mouse and keyboard for that?
Well, definitely the way some of these games are now, like if it's a point and click and like you running around with like if it's like an action RPG, then I definitely would prefer like mouse and keyboard. But if it's like, a game where I'm going to be doing a lot of jumping, a lot of running around, like you say, platforming and stuff, I gotta have the controller because I can't like you can do it with the mouse and keyboard, but it just feels better on a controller,
Yeah, I think it's more accurate on a controller to say it. Like honestly, like when I play VVVVVVVV, I use a controller because mouse and keyboard just feels fucking clunky.
Where you jump up and down, right?
Yeah, and you have like spikes and shit all over the floor
Yeah,
sometimes. Yeah. I love that game. But I feel like objectively shit just doesn't play right on mouse and keyboard. But when you play it on a controller, I feel like I have way more precise aim.
I think that's the same way with fighting games too, and like racing games.
Racing games 1,000%.
Yeah, and then I think another one would be like games like Rocket League, right? Or like sports games.
I'm big on Rocket League. When we play it next?
I don't play Rocket League, man.
Dude, come on. I'll teach you.
No, I can't. I can't play that game.
I'm like low diamond in that game. What do you mean? Oh, dude, Asian driver, you can just blow people up easy. Look, we can fit that stereotype,
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not Tokyo drifting that ball into the goal.
Oh man,
my
look, I promise it takes a lot of practice. I have a lot of like, I can't remember what the second highest rank in that game is, but I have a lot of friends that play at that level, and they fucking taught me how to do a lot of like the air dribbling and stuff. That shit's hard. I can't do air dribbles, but I can like, I got enough like sense in that game to where like, I know where to like do I don't know, like it's hard to explain. But that is a game that I use the claw grip for because it's a lot easier to, and I use a controller for it as well. It's just better on on a controller all day long.
And there are the pros and cons of like mouse and keyboard controller. I mean, technically,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes down to it, I feel like mouse and keyboard really just comes down to like FPS games. That's pretty much it, like aiming
Yep.
and whatnot.
When it comes to like
Controller, other than that,
RPGs
probably
or
dominates everything else, man.
yeah, absolutely. And like look at MMOs, dude. Final Fantasy on controller is fantastic.
Yeah.
There's so many people that use the controller for Final Fantasy. And look how good of a game it is, too. Like, man, Final Fantasy is fucking great. And it also is able to be played on a controller. That's something... Hey, World of Warcraft, are you listening? Stop diddling girls at the office and make it so you can use a controller when you play. Thank you. That was my public service announcement for the day.
2D isn't just tuning in. Oh, they're talking about WoW again.
No, they're talking about WoW for the last 5 minutes of the podcast again. Ah, shit.
Yeah.
Nah, but... I don't know. I just want to go ahead and say, like, the current state of things, I feel like I understand why controllers have aim assist, but I don't agree with it. I think controllers should play against controllers, and that's how I'll always feel about it. I think mouse and keyboard should play against mouse and keyboard, because I want to play against somebody, like, when I watch the kill cam, I want to see their little minute adjustments to like staying on target. I don't want to see them literally locked on me and like their camera not moving at all, just perfect aim every time as I die. Fuck that shit, dude. That is the most annoying shit, to see somebody not even have to try to aim and do better than me. And
Understandable.
on top of that, that just means that I just need to get better. But I also feel like aim assist is definitely needed, because like once you do hit that skill cap of being a controller player, mouse and keyboard players are progressively just going to be better than you. So I feel like having that crutch is a necessity for the crossplay aspect, but I just don't think that crossplay should be a thing. Even though, like, obviously it's not going anywhere, it's definitely increased the number of gamers that we have out there now, and for at least, like, a competitive sense on shooters.
Yeah.
I just think it's objectively dumb.
Right.
Well, how do you feel about it, though? Like, where do you think, like, the current state of video games with, like, mouse and keyboard versus controller? How do you feel?
Well, I think that with the way a lot of games are, most FPS games, since we're gonna like that's the biggest thing, like controller, mouse, keyboard versus each other with it, is like aiming and whatnot. I think a lot of games like Call of Duty, it's a bit more adaptable because everything is hit scan.
Yep.
It's not like you're playing Quake or any of those other games where like Paladins,
Projectiles.
a lot of projectiles, even with like aim assist, it's really hard for a controller player to like get that, because you're not having to just aim at a body and shoot. You have to like line up
Yep.
the projectile, and aim assist is going to counteract that. It's because it's going to lock on the guy.
Yeah.
So that was like one of the reasons why in Paladins their projectile speed was increased by a lot for like some of the characters, because
Drogo's fucking rockets got fast as fuck.
Yeah, man, they had to compensate for that. So
oh, and Eevee, I forgot about Eevee.
was another one. Yeah,
Eevee had slow projectile, but it did so much damage, and then they increased the projectile rate and lowered the damage for it. I remember that.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel in a sense. Is like a lot of games these days aren't really like on the projectile. Like, yeah, there are, like, Apex recently added the bow and arrow, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just kind of like there. You still have all your main hit scan weapons, and those are the more like important ones. I mean, granted, there are probably some cracked projectile players out there that use controller.
Yeah, the longbow, dude. Or sorry, what was it called? The longbow from Apex is also a projectile. Yeah. The sniper.
Yep.
Most of the snipers are actually projectile. It just takes a while for them to actually reach their destination.
I personally just, at the end of the day, I personally feel like it just comes down to preference.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you want to be like a player that wants to reach even higher like level of gameplay and better yourself, I personally think they would switch to mouse and keyboard.
Yep.
So
I agree.
That's my 2 cents on it. If you want to stay on console, and play with controller, that's cool. If you want to just play controller with PC, that's cool. But just know that
you will hit
the
that
end of it
wall.
all, you're gonna hit that wall. I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Like I personally think I'm a pretty good FPS player when it comes to like going against controller players.
Super.
I mean, yeah, I'll flame it every now and then. I'll be like, oh man, this guy's probably a controller player, isn't he? Because he had like just lined up every shot on me, and I'll look, and they're not. It's just me playing against another mouse and keyboard guy.
Yeah, but
That's just
Supa,
kinda how I see it.
Supa, you're correct! Don't lie to me, bro. You're fucking great at FPS games. Hell, I wish I had your aim. Maybe the problem is I'm not using a wireless mouse, and that's my problem. Maybe
you need to raise that DPI a little bit, man.
Maybe. Actually,
I
I'll
thought
be
I was
honest.
low. 400.
I'll be honest. I raised my split gate DPI a little bit, and I'm playing on 250 DPI with I think I'm using like 3.5 horizontal sensitivity and a 2.0 sensitivity on vertical. So like my vertical, I usually like to keep it like at a standard. What am I trying to say? Like I don't like to move vertically a lot, and if I do, it's very minute. I feel like having both of those equaled out creates a lot of problems for like hitting those headshots for me. Maybe it's because I'm just bad, but yeah, I raised my DPI up a little bit and started playing Splitgate and got mountains better. I was playing with Eva last night, and I actually had a couple games where I was getting like 30 kill games. I was like, maybe this was the problem. Huh?
Because she was level 1.
Yeah, 1,000%. I was playing against really bad kids. No, I mean, I really was. I was playing against kids that would literally look at me for about 2 seconds and then start trying to shoot me. Either that or they're just really bad, like, controller players. Or bots. One or the other.
First 5 levels, man, in Paladins is bots.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they felt like bots. I told Eva that too. I was like, these guys don't feel real. These guys definitely feel like bots. Just knowing, like, I mean, dude, after playing that game competitively and seeing like what platinum and diamond players feel like, fuck yeah, that was definitely not a human being we were playing against last night.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Anywho, guys, I just want to go ahead and say a big thank you to everyone that wanted to tune in to today, either by watching us live over here on twitch.tv/Supa-Bounce or twitch.tv/BusterWow. I also want to appreciate everybody that is over on YouTube right now watching it, no matter what time of the day, where, when, how you watched it. I really appreciate you guys. So go ahead and leave a like, comment below, and subscribe for more content. And if you guys are listening to us on a podcast site, I want to go ahead and say a big thank you to you guys as well. Make sure you guys go and check out our Patreon, linked in the description below. We'll have all our social media set up, hopefully by the end of by the time the next podcast is released. I should have all the social media built up by then. I can't promise you that we'll have like the actual live stream setup perfected, but we are working on that. We're just taking our time, having a good time, just working at a nice casual pace at it. But anyways, guys, thank you again. Thank you to Supa. Thank you to everyone. Hope you guys have a great night. Supa, you got anything you want to say? Plug yourself shamelessly.
The last thing I want to say, mouse and keyboard for the win.
And one last thing, PC Master Race, bitches. We'll see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.